Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Mana on the Rocks. It is I, Bald God Joe. Joining me this week, as always, my wonderful co-host Atlas.
Hello, everybody.
This week we got a bit more of a chill episode. We've kind of mentioned it through the past few episodes, but Atlas and I and the rest of our gang, we've been touring around, we've been doing the grind, we've been seeing the sights, we've been meeting the people. So we're just gonna take a step back, kind of talk about some of our experiences, our choices, decks, whatnot, upcoming meta shifts, current meta shifts. Just all the good stuff you love us for.
And Lord of the Rings cards.
And Lord of the Rings cards. Ah, yes. My favorite part about Magic the Gathering. Lord of the Rings
Spoiler
cards.
season.
Ah, it's great. You know what? Just come on down, get a drink with us. Speaking of tournaments, we've been doing a lot of tournaments, haven't we?
Yes, yeah, we have.
I think in the last week alone, not last week, Jesus Christ, going crazy. I think like last month in a week, we've been doing a tournament every single weekend.
Yeah.
There's
all through
one. May. It was all through May. Basically, every single weekend, we were out somewhere. We were just competing our little butts off, and we've kind of peppered that talk throughout the last couple of episodes. But I really want to just like take a minute, take a step back at all the tournaments that we've done, and just kind of like take it all in, because at least for me, this past month has been a lot of like eye-opening and growth and like experience and experimentation, trying to like figure out like what I want to do in CDH. A lot of it really started when we went to a tournament down south in Portland. I think was really what kicked it all off.
The
at least for me,
Portland Game Store RCQ League.
Yeah, that one. Went down there and I went 3-1.
Not the best record in the
world. No, really just showed my worth. I was on Calmax then, and that was the last time I played Calmax. I like that deck in theory. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that it does. I don't think it's good at winning the game though, which is something that I learned. It plays a really, really solid control game, but you fall into the usual control trap where you're the only one answering everything on the board, and you can pretty frequently answer everything on the board and like things going around. But you do not have the resources to be able to convert it into a win, or have the resources to be able to fit to.
You can stop everyone else from winning right up until you can't, and you aren't developing in the meanwhile.
No, and like your resources are so like stifled. You have to use them towards like specifically stopping other people. You don't have much opportunity to like develop. And that was a rough tournament for me. Didn't do so well mentally after that, but we kind of bounced back. Chainer came out from hiding, mainly just because the Broodlord stuff dropped. I'm like, well, I would discard Outland in the command zone. I run a lot of reanimation effects. Seems like a natural fit. I don't dislike Chainer now. I think it still is pretty good. If anything, this is mostly just consolidated and solidified what I already knew, which, unless you're expecting to face exactly Rule Law and have that be your only stacks piece that you're worried about, the deck's not great.
Yeah, there's, especially with Drannith Magistrate and Grafdigger's Cage ruling the format.
That card's just everywhere. Those cards are just literally everywhere, and those cards say I cannot play the
Chainer game. He has ways out, but like they're so narrow, and you have to tutor for them, and then like pair that with an opposition agent. You're just kind of like, you're just stuck there sitting because your commander doesn't do anything outside of provide an extra zone to play from, which is not particularly useful on the whole.
At least currently. I think if the format decides to slow down and we get more into like more broad-reaching stacks, we're not so like Drannith centered. I feel like he has a spot there, but honestly, the new Obnix deck is mostly what I'm looking at right now for like the go-to Rakdos do anything, because it does kind of everything you want Rakdos to
draw a card
pretty well.
Big boy, it hit, like it does a lot. Yeah,
it does a lot. It does passive card advantage really, really well, because I don't like Prosper. Weirdly enough, I think Prosper I feel like Prosper just runs to the same turbo Rakdos stuff, but I was on Chainer for the past couple of weeks, and I did better, but I think that's just mostly I know my deck really well. I know how to play into matchups pretty well. I don't necessarily think the deck I ever I don't think I ever brought the strongest deck to any of the tournaments that I went to. I definitely picked the fun deck for me.
Yeah. Well, I know that after that event down in Portland, you and I, we had a serious like heart to heart about what this deck is not doing it for me anymore. So what deck do you need to be playing? What do you need to shift around? And so we toyed with a couple of different partner ideas, and some maybe we were experimenting with a couple of different like blood pod-esque type strategies and things like that. And we eventually ended up on the deck that you're currently working on, or working on again, I should say, which
Yeah.
is
It's a 4-color Hellcat, so it's a Displacer Kitten shell that's sans white. Um, Basically looking to just like play a slightly faster kitten game plan just by just slimming down the color options. We're on a slightly different stacks plan though. Previously before we were on just normal control stuff, but this time around we're on Oof and we're on No Rod, which I've felt pretty good for the most part. It means we can't get Birthing Pod. Although I still kind of want to play Birthing Pod. After the few games we play, I'm like, I can make Birthing Pod work here. It's totally doable. I have ways to play around it and through it that I think it's pretty good. But no, this is a deck that like when you first started doing Kenrith, I'm like, okay, well, what's like the closest I can get to Kenrith without building your exact list? Like, what's kind of the minimum that I can get to this point? And it's exactly all the white cards basically. I found pretty close proximities to most things, mainly the flicker tech, the cloud form tech, in Essence Flux, which is nearly the same card. Like it's like 90% the same
it's
card.
like
Can't do
almost
can't
as
do
good Cloud Shift.
It's almost as good. It's almost as good as Cloud Shift. You can't do the cool Drake shenanigans with it, but it functions the slot pretty much the same. And I've been liking it. The deck is really good. I piloted it for like 3 months straight, just grinded the deck out and brought it to one of the last majors I went to, like at the start of the year, up north, and I just miserable day on it. Miserable day. I was the only one that was trying to play any sort of smart. Everyone else was playing like loose and fast, and I'm just like, okay, guys, we need to slow down here. And I'm just playing the control game the entire day and just could not get a win. That just burnt me out. I really like the deck. I don't think Thrasios is where I want to be personally, though.
Yeah, I was just talking with, might have been you the other day. I was just talking about how Thrasios is such a good commander for what it's trying to do. I just don't like it. It's just really, really linear, really boring, even with all of the cards that it draws. Like, it sees a lot of cards, dumps a lot of lands into play. You get a Seaborn Muse in play, you are winning the game, at least at the moment. But I don't know, just not. I do not particularly enjoy playing Thrasios.
Yeah, and I like what Thrasios brings to the table. You have an infinite mana sink in the command zone, which is a powerful thing to have. You have a way to hold up interaction and be able to convert that hold into seeing cards. It's a cheap commander, so you can make use of like Springleaf Drum and like Mox Amber and like the free piece of interaction. So your Swats, your Fierce Guardianship, your Deadly Rollick. I think all of those are really, really solid payoffs. I just don't like playing Thrasios. I think. I'm much more a Tymna player than I am a Thrasios player. I like combat and I like playing with creatures a lot more. I also just don't like being pigeonholed into the control spot, and I feel like I can flex out of that a lot easier with a Tymna deck. I don't know what Tymna deck I want to play. I'll probably end up playing the Blood Pod variant for a while because I think that deck's pretty well positioned. Just being able to play Tymna and Collector seems really, really good right now.
Well, and that leans into that and like selecting this 4-color deck over like a chainer list or something along those lines.
I still love my baby. But it's I recognize
that leans into the conversation that we wanted to have today, right? Which is like what's changed about the game since we've started playing, since we like ran all of those tournaments back to back since the beginning of May and here into the start of June.
Yeah, I feel like we're definitely undergoing a meta shift. I feel like everyone is kind of like everyone's kind of emerging from the Staxy winter. Everyone's okay. We're starting to speed up a little bit. Everyone's starting to play a little bit faster. So, I mean, there's really only two ways to go. You either join them or you try and beat them. But I've definitely felt that. But it's not necessarily in the, okay, everyone's sleeving up Turbo Nas. I feel like I'm rarely seeing Nas at the table anymore. very rarely, and the players that are usually getting hated out of the game pretty fast.
Interesting. I don't know if that's been my experience exactly. I've seen a lot of Nas still, but I feel like it's been my observation that it is a lot less of the central game plan that people are going for now. It seems to me that after Bosch's past couple wins with Blue Farm at the Punt City events, like he's on Nas, but his decks are also just built to grind and like draw cards and just do things in general better than your average Turbo Nas list. And I think people were seeing that and they saw the success he had with approaching things a little bit differently from a little bit more resilient like area, looking at this whole idea of let's not play like shitty cards just to enable a turn 2 ad nauseum that draws 80 cards. And so people have been firing off early ad nauseums if they can, and treating that as a win condition. But at least in my experience, what I've been seeing is people fire it off, and if it gets countered, it gets countered. Like, you might fight over it a little bit, but no one's gonna put themselves in a position where no one has any interaction left to stop this turn 3, or after they stop this turn 3 Nas, this turn 2 Nas, so that when somebody tries to win on turn 4 or 5, they just get there for free. With some other combo. That's been my experience, at least, is like people fire them off early if they have them, but they won't keep hands with protection, or they won't wait to protect their Nas or something, because the decks that are playing Nas, they're built to just do better even without an ad nauseum. Like, a lot of the blue farm lists that I've seen at the past couple events have been like, yeah, we're gonna fire off this Nas and try and win. Or, hear me out, if it doesn't work, we'll also just like wait until we can cast a protected intuition and just win on the spot with a breach line. And that I've been seeing has been very, very effective.
Mm-hmm. It's moving away from that like singular point. I remember us talking about like you like very beginning of the podcast. That was like one of the first few things we talked about is like the singular win con versus kind of the more spread out. I feel like we're kind of seeing that a little bit, especially like you said, like very rarely. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I feel like I've very rarely seen like Nas's fought over anymore. It's either it gets there and you got it, or like you're just kind of tossing it out there and it gets countered and the game moves on from there. But you're still in the game is the big thing. You're not putting everything into the Nas and then the Nas gets stopped and you're out.
There's no more, oh, my Nas gets countered, so I'm stuck drawing these like 15 cards that are bad before I draw one removal spell or one counter spell that's good, or like one board wipe. It's like a good card. We're not sinking, like you said, everything all into make sure this ad nauseum resolves anymore, which I think is probably where most lists that play Nas want to be these days. If you're gonna be playing Nas, especially with the whole like creatures are getting better, creatures are becoming like they are becoming the new like sorceries of the game, right? It's like I'm going to play this effect that's also stapled to a 2/3. Ergo, when I cast this effect because I want this effect, and I get a 2/3 to just start hitting you with, Nas gets just a little bit worse on average.
God, the fucking creature quality, I don't know what it is since I came back to the game and really started paying attention competitively, but the creature quality has gotten insane for some of the new stuff. It's ridiculous. Like, Orcish Bowmaster is a disgusting card.
God,
like,
yeah.
I think I'm very curious to see where the card will land, because I think that's like the main, like one of the few like CDH cards I feel like everyone's talking about. This is almost like the Fairy Mastermind again, but I think this one's gonna have real legs.
Yeah.
Because it's the white remand and then the new green dork. Which that card's absurd, right?
The new like Cavern of Souls dork. It makes your legends uncounterable.
Yeah.
The crazy thing about that card is it makes legendary spells uncounterable, and we're getting a
Yawgmoth's File.
Yeah, exactly. We're getting a bunch of new legendary instants and sorceries, and some new legendary artifacts, legendary enchantments, on top of all the legendary creatures that are already played in the format. On top of like the handful of immensely powerful planeswalkers that are played in the format. So I think the card is going to be very good. I know that I kind of threw an offhanded comment into our group a couple weeks back when we were chatting about it, when the Delighted Halfling first got spoiled, saying like, oh yeah, by like maybe February of next year, legends are going to be the thing to be playing. Like their Wizards has been printing so much support for legendary cards in general. Whether it's legendary spells requiring a legendary planeswalker or a creature to cast, or support for just legends as a super type, meaning like Relic of Legends, 5-color Captain Sisay, things like that. Like legendary as a super type is just going to be the thing to try and figure out how to abuse it. There are all these new white effects that tutor for legendary cards, legendary creatures. There's a card that I think is super overlooked that's going to become really relevant in the next 1 or 2 years. Even though it's a 3-mana tutor, it finds any legendary card for 1 white and 2 generic mana called Search for Glory. Gets a saga or a
Oh, I know the
legendary card
Yep.
or a snow card. And so it's really interesting how I think that card is going to, it's not going to be an auto include, but it's going to become a lot more relevant to a lot more decks as we see, oh, this combo is crazy, and like 2 of the 3 pieces are legendary cards. So I'm going to have this one sorcery that can just flex in as an almost demonic tutor, or things like Heliod, the new Heliod that's white and blue. It has a cost reducer stapled to it. So the spell is frequently only 1 white pip, and it's go get any legendary card, which there are a zillion cards in Azorius that you want to be playing that are legendary.
So many good cards to get. So many good cards there. Yeah. I'm very curious to see where it ends, because you poised that thought, and I'm just like, that's an interesting. I'm very curious because I feel like it's a hard thing to do. I feel like in Commander specifically, the legendary creature, you always have access to it. So my thought is, okay, well, where else can we go from here? I guess toolboxing in the 99 is like the next logical step, but I'm curious. If like a lot of the new support has legs, if there are still cards that are going to come out that we will see that we could not even know about. I'm just unsure. I can definitely see that possibility though. I feel like we're probably going to get some crazy 2-card combo sometime that's going to deal with all the legendary matter stuff, and that's just going to put everything into a stew.
Yeah.
Which I think I'm fine with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I'd be curious to see what it does and what it looks like.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting for sure. I have been trying to push Search for Glory for a while, and I'll always try and include it into some of my decks, and it makes the list in some of them. Like I was tooling around with the Azorius Heliod, like I mentioned, and I really liked the card in there. But then other decks go into like Esper or something. It's like, oh, this grabs this card and that card and that card and that card. But it's 3 mana, so you don't really want to play it. So it's in a weird spot.
It's a sorcery.
If it was an instant, I'd be playing that card in every deck. But
instantly.
But yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how the legendary super type continues to matter more as we continue to go through this phase of like, especially as planeswalkers aren't really a card type anymore going forwards. At least not very anywhere near to the frequency that they have been
frequently,
like recently. Yeah. So being able to tutor legendary creatures and legendary enchantments and like artifacts and things like that will really matter, I think. But also there are just better tutors for those, like Enlightened Tutor and things like that. So it'll be interesting. Interesting for sure.
It's almost like Search for Glory is almost like I view it in the same vein as like a Fabricate, kind of like it's a good effect. It gets you the thing that you want, but you have to really want the thing that you need to find. Like Fabricate, find your Basalt Monolith and Kinnan makes sense. It finds your 1-card combo piece, so you want as many effects as you can to get that 1-card combo.
Exactly.
Piece.
I'm not sure that we just have really many of those legendary cards or sagas that we want to be tutoring up consistently right now.
Mm-hmm. Is 5-color Sisay even playing?
There's no reason to. That you have it in the command zone. There's literally no reason to.
That makes sense. Yeah, I guess that one was a bit of a
puts it into play too for 2 extra mana.
That's true. Okay, no, never mind. I was just gonna say like, if any deck was gonna play that, it would be either of the Sisays because they're so legendary focused. Like that's just Sisay.
Yeah. Well, maybe in the future there'll be a reason to run it in one of those decks, but I don't know. Just a card to keep your eye on as you're going forwards and seeing all this new Legends Matter stuff.
Definitely. Speaking of creatures mattering, there has been one significant shift in like the meta to our area that I have noticed a lot of, and he's a big old pirate man, Dargo. That card has been taking our area by storm. Like, I not necessarily like taking down events, but just in like people playing Dargo decks. There's so many people playing Dargo decks around
Yeah,
here.
not even just like our local area, just up and down the Pacific Northwest region. I've been seeing a lot of lists that have Dargo in the command zone. I think for two or three reasons. So the first one is it provides red to a partner pairing, which is super advantageous right now because it gives you Dockside, gives you Breach, Wheel of Fortune, like a bunch of super explosive, high octane cards, right? And the other one is that he's a combo piece in the command zone, which is always highly advantageous. Like that's always something we're looking for. And while he may not be necessarily an exactly a one card win condition, he's like 1.5 or 1.25 card win condition a lot of times, where he's like you just need to be able to get his mana cost down low enough that whatever the enabling outlet or the enabling engine is goes off, and then your outlet, right? So like a Phyrexian Altar, you just get his command tax and cost down to one red. You go through and cycle him, and he pays for himself for one red for the remainder of that turn, or like a babyyyyy or something like that. Right? So there's that, and then the other one is of course that he's the other side of that, outside of sacrificing him, is he's a 7 cost, which means that if you're in blue green as well, you get access to Neoform and evolution effects, and he is 7 cost, which goes right into 8, which in blue green means Neoform. You can get into a Tight Spot Tyrant for Thrasios, make infinite mana and loop your deck that way, or if you're in black and you're just using straight Evo effects like Birthing Pod and things like that, giving him the +1 sends you right into a Razaketh, which crazy thing about sacking Dargo to get a Razaketh in play is then for one red, you can also cast Razaketh and then sack him to, or sorry, not Razaketh, cast Dargo and sack him to Razaketh to go get another card that you need. So really interesting synergies going on there.
Yeah, and the thing I like about Dargo being a command piece in the command zone is you're constantly casting a creature. Notice that we're mentioning creatures a lot. Creatures are starting to matter a lot more recently. I feel like we're starting to like the stack is still where everything happens. Instants and sorcerers are still by far some of the most busted things that you can be putting on the stack, if only because more often than not they're cheaper than the creature counterpart. There's usually some sort of like creature tax associated with it. I mean, regrowth is 1 in a green, pay an extra green, you get stapled onto a 2/1 elf creature, or no, human creature. It's not an elf. I learned that because I wanted to put Finale into a deck. I'm like, or not Finale, the Finale of Ikoria, and I'm like, this doesn't get Ewit. This cannot be good.
Yeah.
Creatures are really good, and I think having a creature combo in the command zone is a very good place to be, especially because like you can very easily like assemble your board out of nowhere. Just be like, oh, I'm just gonna play this. I have like all these like dorks out or like these rocks out. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna play this altar or this Phyrexian altar. Oh, now it doesn't matter. Like, so long as the altar's 6, I'm gonna be casting my Dargo and I'm gonna be going. Like you need to have like I'm seeing more. I'm noticing in myself and in all of the other decks we played a higher emphasis on wanting more board interaction.
Absolutely.
And I'm not necessarily sure that bounce spells are even. I think bounce spells are really good. I think there's a huge tempo advantage there. But like the hard removal pieces, I've been feeling are so critical
They're
right
very
now.
important.
Like your Assassin's Trophies, your Soul Partitions, like your Besiju is so high value these days.
Yeah. It's been definitely something I've noticed in a couple of the tournaments I've been to is there is still a distinct lack of spot removal right now. So decks that focus on creatures for their engine or creatures for their combos are in a really good spot right now. Outside of playing into super stacks heavy areas where you might encounter some random curse totem effects that are going to lock you out. But aside from that, like silver, just getting silver bulleted, which is going to happen every once and again, and you have to be ready for with your own counter magic or removal spells. Creature decks tend to be in a really good spot because a lot of decks right now are still not respecting the fact that a lot of combos and engines are staple to creatures right now, and so they don't have any form of permanent removal. They will, like you said, tempo you with like a snap or something like that. but then it just comes right back down the next turn, which may have slowed them down, might have just slowed you down a turn, depending on when you have to cast it. And it feeds Mystic Remoras and things like that, just to remove a quote-unquote threat. So the whole idea that more permanent removal is really strong hasn't become pervasive yet, and creature decks are really benefiting for that. Something I've noticed as a person who plays tends to play pretty creature heavy decks. If you play like an opposition agent, like turn 1 or 2, even as late as like turn 3 or 4, a lot of times like that card just sticks. Like people just don't remove it. It's same goes for other stacks pieces. Draenith Magistrates will just hit the field and stay there. Because if you do have a removal spell, it's not a permanent removal spell, so it's going to disappear, and then it's going to come back down before your own turn, or you're going to permanently remove it, and that's going to unlock somebody else, and then you're going to lose the game because they're in a better spot because you've dedicated resources to removing it. So it's just a really, really weird spot where a lot of decks haven't adapted yet, and they really should be playing more permanent spot removal. Not as in like the permanent as a card type, but like they get that shit out of here forever.
No, 100%. I feel like this is relating to kind of like the meta cycling. Like creatures are just on the rise right now. Playing creatures is one of the best things you can do, and no one wants to like catch up to it for good measure. Like you still need to be able to handle like an Adnaz on the stack, or like a Puron on the stack, or some like the stack's still going to be relevant. And I'm not saying that credence needs to be taken away from that, but there needs to be a higher focus, I think, on the creatures. Like you said, I mean, like even for us when we're Displacer Kitten heads, like we're just going to toss out our Eternal Witness, and it's just going to stick there until we're ready to go. And by that point, it does not matter. You don't have enough removal spell for the Eternal Witness. I am going to be looping this ritual.
Yeah, a lot of times that tends to be the case, which actually brings up one of the spoilers from the new set. Pretty interesting. It's been receiving a lot of hype lately. It's called Stern Scolding. It's a 1 blue mana instant.
I love this card.
Counters any target creature spell with power or toughness 2 or less.
This card's insane.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about the card. I know when I first saw it, I was super unimpressed, and I even said, I voiced my opinion to a couple people. It's like, I don't think this card's all that good. Like, it sucks. Why wouldn't I just play Spell Snare? I just counters breaches and Tainted Pacts and Demonic Tutors and stuff as well. Well, we were talking about it for a little bit after that, and the reason that this card is going to be better than, say, Spell Snare is because if you run the numbers, most of the creature cards that are played in CDH that you actually care about countering do, as it turns out, have a power or toughness 2 or less.
Seedborn Muse has 2 power.
Yeah, so it's kind of wild because it just hits such a wide variety of things. It hits Thoracles, it hits Dockside Extortionists, it hits Displacer Kittens, Eternal Witnesses, it hits Spellseekers, it hits just an insane amount of things that you would want to counter. Collector Oofs.
It hits Dualcasters. It hits Dualcaster, Oof, Oppo, Draenith, basically any white weenie stacks creature.
Yep.
It hits pretty much. There isn't like one. It hits Sarah's Ascendant because it's a 1/1 printed on the card.
And you don't need to worry as much about this card not countering, say, breaches, for example, because your Besagers, your Spell Pierces, your Force of Negations, all of those cards that you're still going to play anyways because they're also just really good counter spells. Flusterstorms for Demonic Tutors and things like that. Those still hit the card. So even if you go down like one counter spell, say, I don't know, like a mana drain or something, and you go up this card, that's totally fine. Like the utility on this card is very, very broad, just because of how prevalent creatures are becoming, and it answers those ETB effects proactively. So to some extent, we might see it in certain lists, in theory. If they don't want to play this and Dress Down, they might just play this instead of Dress Down, because it answers ETBs in the same way that Dress Down has been being used to answer ETBs. Now, realistically, we'll probably be seeing decks play both if they're wanting that type of stopping power, but yeah, it's just another super, super hard counter answer to creature effects at 1 mana, which CDH really needed and hasn't seen until now.
I agree. What really put me on this card is I read it immediately and was like, okay, this is a staple. Like if you are like a mid-rangey deck, you want this card in your arsenal, especially if you're on like spell seeker type effects. Oh my god, it's such a great tool to put in the toolbox. Holy shit! Like the amount of times that you like spell seeker to get like mana drain, you're forced to hold up 2 blue exactly, puts you in such a bind that like this flexibility basically it gets you like 85% of the way there. I think of like the major creatures, like it doesn't hit Winota, it doesn't hit Linvala. Uh, those are like the only ones that like come to mind. It hits like this hits Nagila. It doesn't stop a Kenrith, but I don't think you're ever really like countering like a
Who would ever
Kenrith,
counter a Kenrith?
for example.
Card's good for the table.
Um,
Political power.
it hits like Malcolm's coming down. It hits Glinthorns being hard cast. It hits everything.
I think there's like 4 creatures that it doesn't hit. It's like Ranger Captain of Eos, Gilded Drake.
That's also a big one.
Winota, like you said. I think there was one more that we were talking about in a Discord server that it didn't hit. That was like, oh, that could be relevant, but I am blanking on what that 4th card would be.
Mm-hmm. I feel like
Mayhem Devil.
I feel like that's a big one. And all of those are very relevant that it misses. Very, very relevant. I feel like a lot of the time games swirl around those set of cards very dramatically.
Mayhem Devil less so. It's mostly just a combo
Mayhem Devil
piece.
definitely less
it's
so,
like
yeah.
it is a stacks piece to some extent, but it is more or less just a combo piece and like incidental removal, which goes back to the whole Bowmasters thing.
Yeah, I every time I have a Mayhem Devil, I feel very secure up until an Ad Nauseam gets cast. I'm like, never mind, this didn't do anything.
And I think that's really the problem with the card.
It's definitely the problem. Like I think it's really good in certain metas. I think if like Malcolm ever sees play again, don't know if that will ever happen. No, Malcolm decks still pop up. Malcolm's still pretty good, but like Mayhem Devil just gets better. No, I really like the skull stern the counter spell that we were just talking. Stern Scolding. I almost had it. I feel like I'm gonna count that more as like creature removal rather than I like put it into like my counter spell suites, for example. It just hits everything that I would care about a majority of the time. This came out at a really good time because I was so down bad for an effect like this. I keep looking at Essence Scatter being like, this is pretty good, right?
Oh no, not Essence Scatter.
I think okay, if it wasn't for this card coming out, there is a world where I sleeve up Essence Scatter and feel like pretty decent about it.
Please, literally, just play Arcane Denial before this card.
I like the card. I think it's funny. There are definitely times where I'm like, this could be relevant. I like this card.
Yeah. There's also the gate on him, right? You're like, haha, I'm gonna counter your spell, and they're like, deflect the SWAT. And you're like, there are no other creature spells on this deck.
Got him. No, the real shit with that is like if you're considering that card, you play delay first.
Absolutely.
And that matters way more. But the fact that it's 1 mana, sure, it's narrow, but it's narrow in
all the right ways.
It's narrow in all the right ways. It hits everything that we care about for our side of the format. Like if you're casting Hydras or whatever, yeah, I don't care about that. Like this card's obviously not going to do it. But in a side of the format where we care about Docksides and Thoracles, very, very low power and toughness creatures, this is just another this is just offer for creatures.
Yep, that's basically what it boils down to. Is this is offer for creatures, and I think we'll see a lot of play. At least for the next 3 or 4 months, right after it's printed, we'll see this in a lot of decks getting tested out, finding out where it sits in the meta, and if it is actually quite as good as everyone's saying it is right now. Which, personally, still not 100% sold on. I do think the card is super, super strong. I don't know if it'll be the auto include everyone thinks it's going to be, because I think it'll run into the whole problem with creatures being that sometimes you just need a stacks creature to resolve, and in order to slow down the game, and so you can't afford to counter it here, which means you really just want a removal spell later, right? Like unless you're going turbo blitz speed, which those decks are going to love this, of course. They're going to this
100%.
effect will be amazing for decks that want to go fast, that get stopped by basically the slightest little thing. But I also think that they're the more mid-rangey, slower decks. They say that they think they're gonna love this card. They might not end up liking it as much as they do, because you just want to remove that Dranith later because it's slowing everyone else down more. So I don't know. I could be mistaken.
Yeah, Yeah, I think we're gonna see this card fight for the same slot as like Chain of Vapor in some lists. I think in lists that you didn't want to be on Chain of Vapor for because like you Chain of Vapor something crazy, you're the next person up in like board parity to keep the board even. So your big thing has to get bounced. I think in those lists, I think I like the slot in over Chain of Vapor. Uh, I don't know if it like removes like a generic bounce spell like a snap or a snapback or something like that. But I think for like Chain of Vapor, like I'll use Calmax as an example because I don't play Chain of Vapor in Calmax specifically because if you Chain of Vapor something with the Calmax out and you're doubling it, more often than not, Calamax is the next biggest thing on the board. You don't want to put yourself in that opportunity. Whereas like I think this card's great in that deck. I think in along those lines is like the mid range style where I think it'll be good, which I think it'll work well in Kenrith. I think, just because I think it saves your ass a lot
Confession
of the time.
time. I will not be playing this card.
Man, and oh, okay, then I think if you weren't on Soul
I just play a lot of weird
there
fucking
might be
cards, and I have a lot of
That's
jank
true.
reasoning on why I'm on cards and why I'm not on other cards. So
That's true.
I will not be playing it in my Kenrith list, at least not at the time being. The card is phenomenal.
Yeah. I'm curious to see like how hard the meta like responds to this card because I feel like if this card is everywhere, we're going to see like a forced meta shift almost. I feel like 3/3s are going to become a high like a very premium stat line to be on.
Yeah,
It already 3/3 already feels like a very premium stat line.
yeah, I would agree with that. I think especially with like if Orcish Bowmasters makes the waves that everyone is saying that it's going to make, then I think this card will be really, really strong just because it's a one-man answer for those cards before they get to do anything, right? Um, so people are saying the Bowmasters is going to be amazing because the meta right now is more or less drawing cards. Like it is seeing more cards. It is getting as much.
Just passive
Yeah, it's
advantage.
just getting as many cards to cycle through your hand as possible because they fill your graveyard, which is a huge advantage because you get to play out of that as well, and you get more options from your hand. Whether that means you're playing control pieces or you're able to like have a win condition established on your turn or something like that, right? So, in theory, Bowmasters will help sort of like level off an advantage that one gets by being able to shoot a lot of the creature-based effects that draw you extra cards, or punish people for getting extra cards off their Mystic Studies and Mystic Remoras, because not only is it shooting their board and controlling the relevant creatures that are in play, it is also establishing a absolute chonker of an attacker, which, especially when you can give it trample, is fantastic. I was playing a game the other day where I flashed this in. I was testing it, and I flashed it in response to a Wheel of Fortune. And when it got back to my next turn, I had like a 30/30 that Kenrith could give trample for 1 mana. So, and I'd already dealt 21 damage to a player. So,
Jesus.
just throwing it out there that this is a card I will be playing in Kenrith.
It's incredible. Like this is going. It's a Horizon set. All right. It's got the same flavor and feel of one.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I came back to the game like right after Modern Horizons 2 came out, and I was like, man, I want another Horizon set. Now that another one is on the horizon, I don't like it.
I'm very excited. I love sets like this. I think that while they do introduce a lot of busted things that will need to get like leveled out in terms of power balance through meta shifts and brewers developments, I really like them because they introduce a ton of new super powerful effects, and they also make it so that people have to shift the way they think about the game, the way they're setting up their decks, and like new combos and new effects that they have to contemplate when they're going into before they go into a game, right? When they're building their decks, which is something I think is super awesome and valuable. And I think that the standard sets, just like the ones that come out every block, while they do frequently have a handful of zingers in them, like not the Horizon sets and the Master sets and things like that, those are really the card pools that push, they launch sets, not sets, but formats forward in development. I really like that.
Yeah, I will rephrase my hatred for it. I usually tend to not like things like that in retrospect, at least as far as Magic is concerned. Magic has had a, for me, like a bumpy history of doing that. I think Modern Horizons 1 tainted a lot of my taste for that, just kind of seeing what that set has done to the game. I don't think is really good. I think the forced rotation on Legacy on like Eternal formats is tough. It's a very hard thing to stomach. But I think on Modern Horizon 2 is about where like the power level I like it. I think where like there's absolutely some crazy stupid stuff in the set. Ragavan, Solitude. Just like those are the ones that immediately came to mind. And I think we're starting to I think we're seeing like it's probably going to be around that power level. I think we're gonna see a lot of very interesting stuff coming out for it. I think we definitely are going to see a push forward on the meta. Retrospectively, though, I'm very curious to see how I will like it. I'll use the Bowmaster as an example. That card has the potential to be one of my most hated cards to see. I don't think it'll be that bad. I think it'll be pretty interesting. I think the gameplay will be very good. I don't know. I'm curious to see where it goes because it's another draw hater, which I know you have very strong opinions about Hull Breacher.
Why did they ban my boy?
I have zero opinion because that was banned before I came to Cedh.
He did
really.
nothing
But
wrong.
as I have matured in this format, though, I think I'm on team Hull Breacher is good because it taxes exactly what we're going through. Like it's a safety mechanism by which players and brewers can put this into the deck and be like, okay, cool. If everyone's going to be finding Rhystic Studies and Mystic Remoras and Archivist of Ogmas and Esper Sentinels and Black Market Connections and Timnas and Croms and stuff like that, there should absolutely be a safety valve on these things.
Yeah, I think
Breacher might be a little bit too tuned on that safety valve, but it's a safety valve
and that's
nonetheless.
basically what Hull Breacher was. Like you said, it was a safety valve that was a little too tuned. It was just a smidgen too powerful for what it was. Did it if CDH if competitive aspect of the format was the only thing being considered, if we didn't have to think about casual players, did the card deserve to be banned? Absolutely not. Would it be one of those things where it's like this card is meta warping and we have to plan for it every single time? Absolutely yes.
100%. 100%. But no more than like Dockside,
but yeah,
I think.
It's one of those cards that scales with the power level. It just doesn't scale well enough. And it is just a little too strong. Like if it was blue one and was the same otherwise, it'd probably be fine. Especially it would get countered by Stern Scolding. Like it's fine. Unfortunately,
Bring it
it's
back.
not. It's blue 2, and that's just a little too good. When it has flash, and it's a 3/2, right? But the flip side of that is that these Bowmasters going to be really similar. It's going to be black 1, so pretty easy to cast. They have flash. But they're a 1/1, so they're easy to kill in theory. My Bowmaster flashes out in response to your Bowmaster, kills your Bowmaster. And then my Bowmaster is gaining control over the board because they have an ETB trigger as well as their triggered ability from drawing cards, which is neat. The cool thing is that they also make a body that punishes players, as well as because, like we were mentioning earlier, they exert board control over a bunch of these creature draw engines that exist. You can attack with your Timna, but if you do and you choose to draw a card in your post-combat main phase, I now get the option to shoot. If you're drawing 2 cards, I'm killing your Timna, and you will have to spend 5 mana at minimum to recast her next turn, maybe 7, maybe 9, depends how many times you've chosen to draw 2 cards, right? So punishing those creature-based draw engines. Or maybe I'll shoot one of your attack dongers or something to reduce your options for attack. If there's an Esper Sentinel in play or an Archivist or something,
It's dead.
yeah. Well, not even
It's
that.
dead.
Like you sometimes you weigh your options, right? I think it's cool with the flexibility. It's not killing the Esper Sentinel necessarily. Sometimes it might be more valuable to have somebody's Esper alive because you can go around machine gunning other people's dorks every time it procs, which basically tells your opponents that now they have to pay the extra 1 every single time. All their spells are mandatorily that 1 mana is enforced, otherwise they're losing their creature. So there's a lot of interesting things that the card brings to play. It's flickerable with Displacer, which, as anyone who knows me at this point knows, that is a huge buff to the card, in my opinion. Even though it's just 1 damage and 1 extra counter on your token, I think that could definitely matter, especially in like stack wars where we care about We care about killing one specific. Like we need to get a Drannith Magistrate out, so we throw an intuition or something on the stack. Triggers our displacer. We get to shoot something. Don't pay for someone's Esper. We get to shoot something. Someone goes to counter our spell, and we counter their spell back and flicker our guy again. And we can now kill the Drannith Magistrate and move on. Like there's a lot of really interesting dynamics the card brings, which we could go on and on about, but not here, not now.
Oh, sure. No, the future Cedh is definitely going to be interesting. Or I don't know, I do like meta shifts. I think that's the time for all of the new rules to be written, all the old rules to be broken. It's just an exciting time. We get to see a lot of creativity come out. We get to see a lot of brews that were maybe were good, like they solid build, solid idea. Just like the meta just wasn't right for it. It's always interesting to see these things come out. Realized I forgot to ask you. We talked tournaments at the start, and then we kind of just dived into like Lord of the Rings stuff. You've been on a rampage. I want to hear from you about your rampage.
My rampage.
Yes.
I mean, I played a couple of tournaments through May. I had one every week, I think, throughout May. So that was a little bit long and taxing, but it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it.
So we're just gonna ignore the fact that you like top four basically like nearly every single event that you went to.
Well, I mean, we don't have to ignore it. I did very well.
I will acknowledge that, and I will put it on blast. You've done tremendously well. You have. I didn't keep that close attention to like your rankings and your standings, but I know you topped pretty much every single event you went to.
If we are taking a moment to brag a little bit, then yes, I did top four every single event.
I'm rolling out carpet for you to walk on. Please brag.
That is. I mean, that's as far as I'll go. But yes, I top four every single event that I played in May, so I'm feeling very happy with myself, very proud. I did have all of those wins with a deck that I invented, I created, which is pretty satisfying. Just to know that I'm not all my ideas are crazy and like unbacked by facts. Especially now, I can say, oh no, sometimes there's something to playing cards that are seem a little bit wonky, but are just an absolute house. And a lot of it probably has to do with just personal playstyle. I'm a very political table talker, as many people are well aware of at this point.
I think you have a reputation at this point.
A little bit. Very flattering hearing people say, don't let this guy talk, but also had a great time with all of the people who I got to play with over the past month or so. It was a lot of fun. Had some fantastic games, even the ones that I didn't win, and I've learned a lot from some of the best players in the Pacific Northwest region.
Yeah, that I definitely say that we all learned a lot. I think all of us in our play group, just like the amount of time and effort that we put into all of these events, just like commuting, competing, handling everything. I think we all walked away from like our month of grinding better than when we entered into it.
So one of the things that I have always had reiterated to me from when I was a wee bab was that you aren't going to get better by playing against people or practicing with people who are below your level. And that is one of the reasons that I really enjoy our group is everyone who we play with on a regular basis is a very talented player. And so we definitely push each other to sort of like try new things and become better players, right? But sort of like just that step outside the comfort zone, I think also has a big impact on growth. And so especially I went to the first Laughing Dragon event up in Issaquah a couple of weeks ago, and playing in that event, it was a very large event. I think it was like 48 or 52 players or something like that. I don't know the numbers. It was very large. It was 5 rounds of Swiss, which was actually the first tournament that I played with 5 rounds of Swiss before. Most of the ones that I've played all of the ones I've played until that point had been 4 or less. And then they did a cut to top 16 and a cut to top 4, and played with just some absolutely phenomenal players there. I learned a lot about how I play, how I view the game, some of my strengths and weaknesses. And so if any of you are listening, thank you so much for all the lessons that I've learned. I really appreciate that, and I am going to hopefully continue to improve so I can return the favor and give you guys a run for your money going forward as well.
The rampage never stops, baby. No, it's been really good. Every single one of the games that I've played for the most, yeah, pretty much every single game. Like I definitely walked away learning something that I definitely wasn't picking up beforehand. I think like especially stepping out of, like the comfort zone was a big thing for me personally because I was definitely starting to get caught in my bubble a little bit, and this past month definitely knocked me out of that bubble into like, okay, no, like we can view things in a smarter way. Like there's a time for fun stuff, and there is a time for, okay, let's be serious now.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't get me wrong. I will always choose the fun thing that has the potential to break stuff rather than like the quote unquote tried and true. But also like tried and true can take on different meanings, which is my big lesson that I learned is like I can present however I want to present in terms of like my deck, but also like I don't like my Hellcat deck. I don't play Thassa's Oracle in it. I'm playing blue black. Why would I run this card? It's bad. Well, it's not bad. It's good, but like
you don't want.
why?
Yeah, you just.
I
Don't
just
wanna
die. I just die. I had to die or I win. I'd rather play a card where my choices for resolution aren't win or die. I will take win or be slightly set back.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
And stuff like that. Especially after the first Gabby's tournament we did, that really lit a fire in me. And this past month definitely reignited that fire. Of like, okay, no, I'm serious. I want to do more. I want to do more.
That's awesome. I think that looking for a new deck, recognizing that like while Chainer is sweet, it's probably not going to cut it in a tournament meta. Like it's not going to cut it when you're going to like Swiss cut to DEs. Like in the locals, the deck probably will do just fine, especially when you're able to tweak it for a meta. But without being able to generate some sort of real advantage in the command zone, and being limited to colors that don't do a lot.
Don't interact well. They don't interact. They don't do a lot to stop people or interact well.
Don't kill me, Rakdos players, but those colors aren't amazing on their own.
What do you mean? We have Tybalt's Trickery and Pyroblast and Red Blast, narrow interaction with drawbacks, and dash ups. Hey, we have Deflecting Swat. That's a real spell.
You're right. That is a real spell.
That's our one. That's our singular spell that we get. That's our one. It is definitely given me the perspective that I needed to like commander choice for the most part. And just like, okay, what do I need like a commander to actually do? And or does the thing that it enables for the deck be a strong enough thing that it's worth that sacrifice?
Yeah, like a 1-card combo or whatever, for sure.
Or something real. And I think in the back of my mind, I just didn't want to do that for whatever stupid reason I could come up with. But now it's just like, oh no, like this is the cold hard reality of just like I'm just not a player at this table half the time until I very much am, which like that doesn't do anything for anybody. Doesn't really do much for me. At the very least,
you want to be able to contribute something at least like it goes back to that whole thing. It's like what makes a good game, right? Like, does it mean that you presented a win at some point? Does it mean that you've interacted meaningfully? Like, what are you looking for in a game? And it seems like sort of like over the past series of events that you've played, you've sort of narrowed that down a little bit and figured out what is meaningful to you and what means that you're having a good game, which is awesome.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. For me, it was definitely like, okay, if we're gonna go out with the boy, we're gonna just ride them all. We're just gonna take them all the way home. You know, we're gonna send them off into the sunset and blaze the glory of 1 and 3 being the best the deck could do. Bog standard average. We hit the 25%, baby. That's all that matters.
All that matters.
No, we don't. You have some events lined up. I'm potentially going to some more events, barring real life shenanigans. But the grinding's not going to stop, far as I can see.
I think at least for the Pacific Northwest area, there are a few events.
It's getting started summertime.
Yeah, there are a few events here that are coming up in early June. I don't know of many for mid to late June. I know there are 2. It's going to be airing on Thursday of this week, so there are 2 coming up. There is an RCQ for the Pacific Northwest Championship at I believe it's called Wizard's Keep up in Kent, Washington. Unfortunately, I don't believe either of us will be able to make it to that event. But the next day there will be the Portland Game Store is having their RCQ League event down in Portland, and so that I will be at that event with a couple of my friends. I don't know. I don't think you said you were going to be able to make it. You might be able to make it. Um, but
Potentially.
so that's coming up on the 11th of June, and then looking forwards for all of you who are marking your calendars. There are a couple of other interesting events coming up, aside from a variety of other RCQs. Getting ready for the November 5th Regional Championship for the Pacific Northwest Circuit in CEDH, which is on November 5th. That there are a few coming up in July, a couple of events there. July 1st, I will be playing at a shop in Idaho called Journey's End Games. Very much looking forward to that. Have not played at that store before, and I'll be playing in that event. Then there's another event on I believe it is July 16th. The Next Level Gamers Den is holding their RCQ event in Graham, Washington, and I will be looking forward to playing there as well. And then the next big event at Laughing Dragon, there's the Runback, their second event. So let's make sure that we all show up there and cap that event off. It's going to be on July 22nd, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I don't have the dates in front of me, but I do believe it is July 22nd.
Sorry, you've been quoted and put
I'm
into the record
on the
permanently.
books now.
It's in
I
stone
can't
now.
take it
I
back.
don't know what to tell you.
But do check out the CEDH server. That's SEA EDH, and then they'll have their tournament channel. You can check out the details there. Shout out to Marcus. The first event was awesome. Really looking forward to playing in your second one. And then hopefully we'll get a couple more people from our team up there, so we can get some more representation from the Olympia area.
Oh, absolutely. I think at the very least we're known in our area for our two signature things. We all wear matching shirts and we all have matching play mats, which I think is really cute. I love that we have like this sort of like team thing going on.
If you ever see somebody walking around an event with a shirt with a little flame on it that says "I'm a failure," that's us. That's one of our people.
That's us. Or if you see someone roll out with a black and white dockside mat, it says Gabby's Olympic Cards and Comics. One, you know you're in for a good time, and two, you know you're not going to get lied to.
Yeah. So this is going to be a really good summer full of a lot of events, and then I think we have a couple more in August. Really far in the future, I know there's one that's coming up on August 26th up at Aegis Games in Bellingham. They're doing their RCQ, which I will also be playing in, and I'm sure that a number of our people from our team will be showing up there. Joe, I think you said you were going to try and make that one as well. So
yep, that's one of the bigger ones that I'm going to try and go to. Who knows what will be on? It's probably not going to be Chainer.
Look forward to seeing the Man on the Rocks boys up there at an RCQ event near you, and hopefully we'll be able to get some good games.
Yeah. No, whole summer full of events. It's just getting started. The grind is here. The Sigma grind said we're here, we're ready. I'm ready for it, and I'm also excited. It's been really fun competing, and I have already seen, like, despite me wanting to shelve Chainer, there was a steady improvement of like, okay, no, like I actually had a win. I had my first winning record for once in a tournament. I went 1-1-2. Technically winning.
1-1-2 is
1-1-2.
Technically winning, yeah.
It is technically winning, which, I mean, we'll take technically winning in statistical average for right now. Eventually, we'll reach the top tables. Give me time.
Let him cook.
Let him cook. But yeah, that's basically all I got. Very excited for the next few months worth of competition. New cards, new friends, new events, new memories. Always a fun time. Alice, you got anything else here you want to add at the very end?
I have covered more than my fair share of details in these past 5 minutes here. So, nope. I'm just looking forward to jamming some sweet CDH games this summer.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for listening, all the new friends and all new potential listeners that we've met over the past month and change. Appreciate all of you for listening and checking in with us. Can't wait to see more of you, and we'll catch you next time.